Hey, so at the start of this week's episode, we'll have a word from Andrew um, about a, a dire mistake that he had made in the last episode. Um, Andrew, I'll let you throw yourself on your sword now.
I honestly, I don't know what you're talking about in a lot of ways. I feel like I feel like if you're talking about I think the worst thing that I did last episode, I would say, is I tried too hard. I made too many people laugh. And there was too much truth behind the laugh. So I think those were really the three problems.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
No, not maybe. Maybe your shocking ignorance around the history of boxing kangaroos.
Yes. So, my attorneys have advised me to say that apparently at some point kangaroo boxing was a sport. Mm-hmm. And to make my apology very clear, I have invested my own money into a new sister show where I have volunteered Jason for an underground Filipino kangaroo boxing ring. So we're shipping him off next week.
No.
With my Blue Yeti microphones, I'll have to get a new one. So it's going to cost me quite a bit. I mean, I got the plane ticket. I got this. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how it goes. But welcome to the Halloween special of Underworld News Tonight. Forgot the name of my own fucking show for a second. I was so infuriated at myself for my inability to properly understand the history of kangaroo boxing. But let me tell you guys what this is. Now, Jason and I, Jason's a cat owner. He's been a dog owner in the past. I'm a dog owner. You should neuter your dog and your cat, but you should definitely neuter your dog, right?
Yeah, and
I think most of the year, our podcast is like a normal neutered dog. We're good fun. You enjoy it.
Sure.
But any owner of a neutered dog knows that about once a year, nature finds a way. And that dog stares at you rock hard with an erection that should not exist. And it is frightening and beautiful and impressive. Beautiful non-sexually, I should clarify. But beautiful nonetheless in the way that a Planet Earth documentary is, but a lot more real and gritty, like a punk rock Planet Earth. And kind of frightening. And I think that's what this is going to be today. And I'm here with the horniest dog of them all, Jason Strong. I know we promised last week that comedian Cole Johnson would be here. Unfortunately, there was a bureaucratic error, and he did get drafted for Vietnam. So we'll see how that goes. But
wow.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, bad luck for him because the draft has been over for 50 years?
I don't know how it happened, but I mean, I guess something about the bureaucracy these days, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we wish him all the best.
Yeah, it's like, who needs a comedy podcast with the clowns we've got running the show? Am I right?
Oh, wow. Zing. Got him.
I think we got him for sure. Yeah.
Got him. All right.
Now, Jason, you're going to start us off by, I know. So for those of us who maybe haven't been listening for the last few episodes, what we normally do on this show is dive into some of the weird, wacky, and maybe a bit spooky stories of the week. But if that's what you're looking for this week, literally go fuck yourself, because you're not fucking getting it here. And you can get off my fucking doorstep with this trick-or-treat bullshit, because what we're doing today is we're going to bring you some old-fashioned spooks. So we have got some classic cryptids coming for you. Jason's got two good ones. I've got one of the great classics from my home state. And we're going to take you on a little trip. So, maybe, this is going to go up on 6 a.m. on a Monday. Do what you got to do to get yourself into the right frame of mind. Call in sick if you got to call in sick. Because it's also going to be the day before Halloween.
Right.
Mischief Night Morning.
Mischief Night Morning. Yeah, that's one of my favorite celebrations on Mischief Night Morning.
Did they have Mischief Night in Ohio?
Uh, yeah. In terms of like kids going out and
Yeah,
you
night
know
before Halloween.
pulling pranks and toilet papering houses and that kind of shit.
TPing
Yeah, yeah.
houses, egging houses. Did you call it Mischief
Egging
Night?
houses. No. I think we called it Devil's Night.
Yeah, I think everywhere else it's called Devil's Night. In New Jersey, it's called Mischief Night. And I read an article this morning from somebody complaining about how, New Jersey Mischief Night's dying out.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this, like, I think growing up in the 2000s and 2010s is interesting because you kind of see this transition where, like, when I was in elementary school and middle school, pretty much everybody was going out to some degree on
Mm-hmm.
Mischief Night. I was not, because I would have been grounded within an inch of my fucking life because Sue ran a tight fucking ship. But everyone else I knew was going out on Mischief Night.
Mm-hmm.
By high school, not only were the high school kids not doing it, which in general I think is the most popular group to do it because they're getting hammered, but
Right.
even the middle schoolers and kids are not Mischief Nighting anymore. And I'm reading this article, I'm thinking the reason why it is, I think, is that parents got really fucking intense about calling the cops about this shit.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I feel like they didn't call the cops about it as much on the 80s and 90s, and maybe it wasn't as big of a deal when they got there.
That's a good point. I never thought about it. I never had the cops called on me for that for that kind of mischief. But no, I was wondering because it doesn't seem like I haven't seen a house that's been TP'd in probably a decade.
I never TP. Did you just do the front? How do you TP the house? Because you can't.
Well,
You
like
don't run around it.
no. You do like the trees in the yard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I guess you could do the house.
I've seen
I
the bag of dog turds on fire on the porch.
Yeah,
Classic.
yeah.
Takes
Yeah,
a
I see
while.
that all the time. Yeah, no, there's just flaming shit everywhere on the street.
Yeah, that's in general. That's just how you keep warm in Colorado.
Right, right. Yeah,
But we're
no.
not talking about shit fires today.
Well,
We
I mean,
could.
we'll see what comes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have
That'll be when we launch our Patreon.
like that's a tier.
That's a tier. We talk
Yeah.
the tier will be
All right.
we have a Patreon poll.
Okay.
They choose what we eat that month on Shitfire Day. We light a shitfire and we review the ambiance. Just a pitch. We'll talk about it at the quarterly production meeting, but we're not talking about it on the air today. We can't give away our trade secrets. We'll fucking sue the bastards who took it from us.
No, that actually does sound really good, though. That sounds like a really good idea.
Sounds brilliant. Health risk free.
Right.
I think, and I think when it comes to what my wife thinks of that, I think that, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
Right. Right.
But we're not talking about the planned Shitfire Patreon exclusive side podcast today. Title in progress. We're talking about which local cryptid, Jason?
Well, we're going to start with the Slide Rock Bolter here in Colorado.
The Slide Rock Bolter, Bolter.
Bolter. That's
nice.
Correct.
Like Usain Bolt.
Oh, I didn't make the connection. You think they could be related, maybe?
I don't know anything about the Bolter. Is he fast? I guess you'll tell me.
Yeah. So with the Slide Rock Bolter, picture this.
Okay.
Closing my eyes. A whale. Looks like a whale.
Okay.
No arms, no legs.
No legs. Does it have like fins or flappers or just none of it?
It does have fins.
Okay.
Bony sort of ridged fins.
Mm-hmm.
Huge toothy maw and tail that splits in two as further you go down. Now, what the Slide Rock Bolter does is will use the tail to cling to the side of a mountain, and then when its prey walks underneath, which would be
a humans,
it started with loggers in the 1800s. Now it's tourists that
Of course.
that get it. Yeah, when someone happens to come by underneath, the slide rock bolter releases the mountain, lets it go, and with the slimy saliva from its mouth to lubricate.
Ugh.
Yeah, those are fun words. It shoots down the mountain, gobbles up whatever it was aiming for underneath, and then keeps going up the valley to perch on the side of another mountain and start the process over again.
I think that's not a good way to eat. I'm just going to say it.
No.
You're basically, imagine being the slide rock bolter, right?
Yeah.
You essentially have to fucking sprint, eat, sprint again, and then eat again.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem, for the size of this thing, I would guess it would have to be going through a fair number of people every day.
Yeah.
I don't know where, short of picking a mountain next to the freeway, like I don't know that there's a lot of
there'd be a lot of sightings.
Yeah, where you're going to get a lot of if you're a slide rock bolter, a place where you're going to get a lot of opportunities to eat people.
You know what? I have a theory though. So whales, they mostly eat krill, like a lot of whales. They actually aren't eating a lot of big fish. They're eating like a bunch of fucking krill.
True.
What if what the slide rock bolter really eats is bugs, birds, that sort of thing, and they're flinging themselves up and down mountains to do it, and occasionally they accidentally eat a person?
Now that could be. However, the story goes that at one point, a clever park ranger.
I love our park ranger listeners.
Yeah.
When I think of famously clever professions, not the first one that comes to mind.
Well, what this ranger did,
I know they find a lot of dead kids though, so I do actually, I love our park ranger listeners.
Well, they lead a lot of informative and entertaining educational programs in the nation's great national parks.
Yeah, they do, but they also in those same parks do find a lot of dead kids as well. Yeah, it's ups and downs of life.
Right. Yeah. What was I saying?
You were talking about there was a clever park ranger.
Yes, this ranger set up a dummy. It says the dummy was given says a Norfolk jacket and a Colorado travel guide, so that the slide rock bolter could easily identify it as a tourist. Again, it's one of its favorite prey, and it was loaded with dynamite. And the ranger, when it when the slide rock bolter slid down and gobbled up the dummy, triggered the dynamite and blew it up.
Oh, really? When was this?
Dates are unclear. I've looked through a number of sources for this story. I'd never heard of this, to be honest with you. Even living in Colorado, but it sounds pretty badass, really. And these,
is there any obviously, like any quote unquote body?
Oh no. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about what happened to the remains when the ranger blew it up. But presumably there's more than one, because this is still, a ongoing concern in the mountains, is getting gobbled up by a slide rock bolter.
It's harder now because people are just using their phones. They're not using the fucking Colorado travel guide.
Right. So yeah, how would I identify who's a tourist and who isn't?
Probably I don't know. What is a famous thing that a Colorado tourist does? Selfies. I mean, that I can only think of things that like New York tourists do.
I was going to say eat too many marijuana edibles.
Yeah, that's just me in Illinois, like on a regular basis, though.
No, we we do enjoy a fair amount of tourists here. If we have a few national parks, and I don't know that there's like necessarily one thing anymore. That how you can identify an out-of-state tourist. Um, the Colorado guidebook that the ranger put on his dummy is a pretty nice touch, though.
It is.
Yeah, that was pretty clever. Yeah, and all of the
it implies
images,
that they say he's a clever ranger, though, but I don't think that it could read. I don't think that you needed to have that. I think it could have been any book.
That could be. Yeah, I don't
Especially
know.
I feel like they were all printed on the same shit back then.
Right.
I guess I don't know. Maybe this was like the 60s, in which case maybe not. But I don't know when this was.
Yeah, I don't.
If it was the 60s, we'd have a fake body.
Right. I think it was earlier than that. I
Yeah,
said this the story dates.
Sounds like a classic lager store, like lager legend. I know
Yes.
You mentioned they was eating lagers, so yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it actually is credited with destroying an entire town.
Oh man,
the town of Rico, Colorado, back in excuse me, 1892 was taken out by a hungry slide rock bolter.
But not Rico.
Yeah.
How many people were living there?
38. I was gonna say 4, but yeah, not many.
Yeah. Imagine though, you're like, imagine going to like visit your in-laws or some shit, and then you come back and just the slide rock bolters taking out your town.
Yeah. No, it must have been a surprise. And the way this is framed is that like people found this town that had been destroyed and sort of, I guess conducted whatever investigation, seance, terror, whatever, however to determine what had happened. And that's when they decided it was the work of the slide rock bolter. So it's not. So it seems almost like people didn't even know.
I don't understand. They've got plenty of shit-filled water.
Right.
Room temperature pork.
Right.
Damn bolter.
Yeah, it has to be the bolter. It's certainly not. Certainly couldn't be the end of the gold rush as all these towns popped up. Gold was mined out, and then the towns went away. But
is Colorado a gold state? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's yeah.
I thought that was just. I mean, I only know that about California, but it's been a long time since I took U.S. history.
I know there's definitely a lot of mining. I'll say that.
Yeah. Let's talk more about the history of the mineral industry in Colorado for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go into it. So I want to hear about quartz.
Yeah. No, there's actually talking about cryptids in Colorado. Tommy knockers.
The Stephen King book. I actually haven't read that. I don't know anything about Tommy knockers.
I haven't read the Stephen King book, but the little like goblin dudes from I believe originally like Welsh folklore. Tommy knockers have been seen, heard. It's felt that they maintain a presence in Colorado.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so there's your mining connection.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
You do wonder, what if there is, I don't know, sometimes you do wonder there's a lot of shit in caves probably that we don't know about. So you hear all these stories about goblins, and you wonder, maybe there is / were at some point divergent branches of humanity that are still in the caves. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asserting this at any level. I'm just blindly speculating on the podcast, drinking my fucking tequila sunrise.
No, that like what do they call them? The chuds, the cannibal humanoid underground dwellers.
I've never heard. I've heard the word chud. I didn't know that's what that meant.
I think it was a movie in the 80s. It was
Oh,
like a
really?
shitty movie. Yeah.
You know, now it's like a thing to call annoying people on the internet, I think. Like
Oh,
you
you're
call
right.
like someone who watches Andrew Tate videos a lot of chud.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
There are certainly parallels there. um, but yeah, no, I thought we'll put some of these old timey renderings of the slide rock bolter out on the socials so you can take a look. It is a pretty cool monster. Uh, I don't know. You would think that something the size of a whale infesting the mountains, there might be photographs or you know
You think that there would be at
or,
least a
or
little bit
anything.
of
Right.
you think that the dynamite, there would be some side rock bolter pieces.
Right.
You think they
Right.
ate it? No, they would have written what it tasted like.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that
Because I mean he cooked it up. I mean he kind of,
yeah, who knows? I don't know. I've never had whale.
in Iceland they eat fermented whale.
Yeah.
I didn't try it when I was there, but they do eat it.
Oh, yeah.
Such good pickled fish. If you're a pickled fish fan, go to Iceland. Highly recommend. In general, go to Iceland. It's a beautiful country, but especially go for the pickled fish.
All right. This message brought to you by the Icelandic Tourism Board.
The slide rock bolter is still out there to this day.
Yeah,
I thought they killed one though.
they did kill one, but it's speculated that there are numerous bolters.
You'd think that if there were multiple, you'd hear them fuck.
That you being
Two
that
whale-sized
whale,
things
yeah,
living on the mountains.
yes, you would that yeah, you would almost certainly hear some fuck.
Man, that is there must be some park rangers with some wires crossed there. I will tell you that much.
I don't know. Or maybe it's some kind of conspiracy, You can't if we learned the existence of slide rock bolters, society would crumble. We'd lose trust in our institutions, our government, our media, and
I think it would be a lot
heaven
more
forbid.
destabilizing for the slide rock bolter to be real than for Bigfoot to be real. Because for Bigfoot to be real, the government could plausibly plead ignorance.
Right.
For the slide rock bolter to be real, I mean, it being the size of a whale, it would have to be a very large cover up in a way that Bigfoot wouldn't be. In a way that like Bigfoot attacks could be bear attacks and shit like that. But all of this is interesting because you're from a wilderness. Like, I mean, you were living in a wilderness state. You're talking about the slide rock bolter. And I'm about to talk about the Jersey Devil. And now, while New Jersey is not what a lot of people would consider a wilderness state, I do think that to understand the Jersey Devil, you need to understand the part of South Jersey that he's native to, which is the Pine Barrens. And in order to do that, we need to establish something that most out-of-staters don't even think about when it comes to New Jersey, and what I would consider to be the great fucking contradiction at the heart of my home state, which is New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the U.S. Per square mile in New Jersey, there are 1,300 fucking people. It is, packed shoulder to shoulder. But there are these fucking pockets of wilderness of living in the middle of nowhere that you could go to. And they're so close to the highway, but they also are so remote that nobody ever has a reason to go to them unless you live there or have business there. So it's this really interesting dynamic. And a lot of these places aren't necessarily served by the buses or by the train. So it's really people drive there, drive in and drive out, and that's it. More than any other state, that makes it one where New Jersey feels like you can take a wrong turn. You get off on the wrong fucking exit on the highway. And you don't just feel like you're in a different part of the state. You don't feel like you're in a different state. You feel like you're in a different country. And sometimes you feel like you are in a different reality. And the Pine Barrens is one such place, if not the most emblematic place like that in New Jersey. It's politically a lot more conservative than the rest of the state. It's woods, but it's not nutrient woods. It's called that. They call it the Pine Barrens because of its nutrient poor soil where you cannot grow a thing. So you only have these pine trees. It's mostly rural to this day. It stretches across 7 counties, so it's quite large. And it's pretty close, and it's close to both. So it ends up being close to both New York and Philadelphia at the north and south of the state. For anybody who has braved the harsh atmosphere of the Pine Barrens. The region has always been home to a particular legend which begins in the 1730s. Now, Jason, I might need you to fill in some sound effects here. So, okay. In the 1730s, there was a woman in the Pine Barrens named Mama Leeds. As the name implied, Mama Leeds. As the name implies, she had a lot of kids, because when you name your kid Mama, what else are you setting her up to do in life?
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
And she was about to have her 13th child. In exhaustion, she declared,
"Let it be the devil."
But there we go. Now we're going to flash forward to the birth of the child. Jason, if you could fill in some sound effects there. Perfect. It was actually a relatively easy birth by 1730 standards, and the child looked pretty normal at first. But then the change began. He grew cloven hooves, bat's wings, a horse's head, and a forked tail. Growling and screaming, the newly born creature devoured the midwife and mother before flying up the chimney and becoming the devil that haunts the Pine Barrens to this day. Now, Jason, I know what you're thinking. I can't possibly do that sound effect. I cannot imagine what these horrifying, horrific screams sounded like. And you don't need to worry about that, because I have a man recounting a sighting that he had of the Jersey Devil in the 1980s.
Hey.
What's going on, Robert?
I'm a hard-working construction worker on my way to a job.
God bless you.
Yeah, and I had an encounter back in the early 80s. I saw what I later found out to realize was the Jersey Devil.
Tell me, tell me about the encounter.
Okay, back in the early 80s, I lived in Marlboro, and this was at the corner of Duncan Drive and Tennant Road. Now, right at that intersection, there's a hill, right?
All right.
And I had a new bicycle at that time. It was a
how old were
racing
you,
bike.
Robert? How old were you?
I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
I was young then.
Yeah.
And I was still living at home,
Got
right?
it.
And every night I would go for a bicycle ride after dinner. And I had this new bicycle that was very quiet. And this one night, I had this routine. I would come by, I would make the right turn at Duncan Drive onto Tennant Road up to where my house was, and I would come around this one little piece of sidewalk and up the hill very quietly. And this one night, I'm coming up that hill quietly, like with that bicycle the way I always did, and I'm hearing this noise. I'll never forget this noise as long as I live. The only way I could describe this noise to you would be, say, if you were to take a cat and hold it down with your foot and pull its leg off, and the thing started screaming.
Can you duplicate it for me?
Like warbling, like...
Got it.
Abject. Now, I mean, and you know it's legit, because a New Jersey construction worker is probably the most trustworthy person you're ever going to meet. And there's no way he was drunk before. There's no way he actually just heard of murder or a cat being hit by a car.
Right. And he has some pretty strong opinions about noises cats would make.
Yeah, he really seemed to, he that was a very specific example. I think someone should check up on him. But, hardworking construction worker nonetheless. Now, as you might have gathered, though, from this chilling account, the Jersey Devil has been sighted throughout New Jersey many times in the centuries following its horrid birth. One of the earliest reported sightings actually comes from Joseph Bonaparte, the oldest brother of Napoleon and the former king of Naples in Spain, while hunting near his estate in Bordentown. There's very little known of this other than the fact that he allegedly saw the Jersey Devil, and some consider it apocryphal. Other rumors tie the Jersey Devil to the infamous pirate Captain Kidd. Legend has it that the Scourge of the Seas beheaded one of his men to forever protect buried treasure that he had left on the Pine Barrens, because one of the interesting things about the Pine Barrens is it's a place where you have loggers and fucking pirates and fucking military people and rich people and fucking the trashiest trash all in the same fucking place. And what pirate and Captain Kidd puts his treasure there, beheads one of his men to forever protect it. Seems a bit counterproductive to me. What happens, though, is the headless pirate became friends with the Jersey Devil And the two can be seen in the evenings walking the New Jersey marshland, which seems pretty sweet. Two best buds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a nice twist to the story.
Who rescued who?
Right. Right.
Now, perhaps a slightly more obscure military man to encounter the Jersey Devil was the naval commodore and hero Stephen Decatur. Now, he was fondly remembered in the United States for his 1804 siege on Tripoli that I truly could not tell you about at gunpoint.
Right.
And he came across the beast on a visit to the Hanover Mill Works. He was absolutely terrified of it, and he fired a cannonball at it. The cannonball hits the Jersey Devil, explodes on impact. Fucking nothing happens. It's unfazed, just flies away.
Wow. Wait, he was traveling with the cannon?
He was inspecting like a naval base, I think, or like a military base of some kind.
Okay. Gotcha.
There were cannons around. I feel like every town had a cannon just in case at the time.
No, that makes
the British were coming back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The War of 1812. This time it's personal.
Yep.
Can't impress our fucking seamen.
Nope.
Now, the Jersey Devil would go from an occasional whispered nuisance to a statewide phenomenon during a well-publicized flap in January of 1909. In this 1 month period, there were nearly 1,000 sightings reported across New Jersey, the entire state, not just the Five Barrens. In Trenton, resident after resident claimed to see the creature banging on their doorsteps and leaving hoofprints in the snow. Newspapers reported the killing of pets and chickens. Witness after witness called in, some reporting the beast had blazing eyes and breathed fire. In the city of Burlington, hoof-like tracks and an upright beast were sighted, but when hounds were put on the trail, they bristled in terror and ran home at the mere scent of these single-file hoof tracks.
Good for those dogs.
Yeah, no, I mean, they want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
They might have just wanted a day off.
Yeah, I imagine.
This was the height of like the labor union movement, so that's something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for the capture of Mother Leeds' 13th child. And in many of New Jersey's rural communities, especially at the time where, it was a bit less, suburbanization hadn't really happened yet, so it was a bit less dense. Men formed armed posses to protect their families and children. But just as suddenly as it started, it all stopped. The reason why became a matter of debate. Some said that the Jersey Devil was captured by authorities. Others that it was killed when its tail hit the electrified third rail of a train line. So, who knows? Sure. Just another day in New Jersey. Regardless, besides a stray sighting or two, the Jersey Devil died out until 1960, when residents of Mays Landing awoke to horrifying and inhuman screams in the night, perhaps much like the one that I just played. Flyers were hung by police, informing residents that it was all a hoax, but a circus owner responded by offering a $100,000 reward for the devil, which was never collected. But how are you going to fucking capture it? Right.
Well, but as we've just learned, it's impervious to cannon fire.
In 1993, a forest ranger by the name of John Irwin claims to have seen a strange creature over 6 feet tall with horns and matted black fur blocking the road along the Mullica River. He said the creature stared at him for what felt like several minutes before turning around and running back into the woods. And sightings of the beast haven't stopped since the advent of cell phone photography. In 2015, David Black of Little Lake Harbor was driving around Route 9 with a golf course. Along Route 9 near a golf course, when he saw what he thought to be a llama walking in and out of a tree line by the side of the road. However, the llama then spread bat-like wings and flew away. Now, this picture is almost certainly a hoax. I sent it to you guys earlier. I'll put it on the Instagram. For the simple reason that the Jersey Devil is not a llama/goat with wings that it looks like just got thrown out of a helicopter. Right. So I think that needs an animal abuse investigation. But a few days later, another state resident shot video of the same creature near Leeds Point. You guys let me know if you think it's a hoax or legit. At Underworld News Tonight on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook as well. The 2015 sightings, I definitely do not think are legit. No. I do not. I'm going to say that. But some of these other ones are a bit compelling. Now, the question is, what's behind all these sightings? There are actually a few interesting theories. Now, I'm going to start with the one that I'm least interested in. And this is one you hear in general when the debunkers are out in full force about this kind of thing. And while I do appreciate looking for natural explanations for this, I don't appreciate what a lot of professional debunkers, especially less qualified ones, tend to bring, because it operates on the assumption that anyone bringing forward their experiences, whether it's about a cryptid, a UFO, an angel who's not lying, is just a fucking idiot. Not all debunkers are out for that. And like I said, most of the stuff, there are real, rational, natural explanations. This particular explanation, I do think, is like that, because it's one you hear, whether it's about Mothman, UFO, ghosts, and the Jersey Devil as well, which is that people claim that this is an owl.
An owl.
Yeah. This is also very popular with Mothman. They claim that people don't really know what an owl looks like. So they see a kind of large thing with a large wingspan, a short head, and like kind of glowing eyes fly towards them, and they assume it's the Jersey Devil. Now, my problem with this, first off, is that if you live somewhere like the Pine Barrens, the rural area, like, you've seen a fucking owl before. And even if you haven't seen a fucking owl before, you know what a fucking owl is. So I am not a Jersey Devil truther, as much as I might pretend to be one to make this show entertaining right now. But I do not think that anyone who is not lying about their sighting saw an owl. I do not think a single person who is not deliberately lying saw an owl.
Yeah, no, that seems like it'd be hard to mistake an owl for as you're describing the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, which has a horse's head, so it's not headless. You know, this makes a little more sense with Mothman, because Mothman is sometimes reported as totally headless. But the Jersey Devil, like, has a pretty defined head, much larger, clear cloven hooves. Like, it's not in line with that. But there is a more interesting potential natural explanation for the Jersey Devil, albeit still unlikely. And that is the hammerhead bat. The hammerhead bat has a wingspan of nearly 3 feet, which it has head that looks kind of like a cross between a horse and a dog. I'm going to post it on the Instagram and the Facebook. It has these really disturbing bulging eyes. Like, it's an upsetting looking fucking creature. So some have theorized that a hammerhead bat made it to New Jersey as a stowaway on the slave ship. I mean, obviously there was slavery in the North, especially when this myth started. And came to haunt the southern part of the state, becoming responsible for early hauntings and later potential hoaxes. It should be noted that this is unlikely, for the simple reason that the hammerhead bat is native to a warm climate with easy access to fruit. So the likelihood of one both surviving the entire voyage on a slave ship and then making it for long enough to start these legends, let alone reproduce for potentially multiple sightings, just does not seem particularly likely.
No.
Now, the infamous 1909 sightings often get attributed to a combination of mass hysteria and yellow journalism. It was primarily newspaper-driven, and the standards of papers in the 20th century were not particularly high. After it went missing, you could see some people claiming it was, like, on display in Egypt and whatever. So, you know, you could take a lot of that with a grain of salt. It could also be noted that locals and visitors alike to the Pine Barrens have somewhat of a reputation for hysteria. One famous outdoorsman, Tom Brown Jr., recounts that terrified locals would mistake him for the Jersey Devil on hunts when he would cover his entire body in mud to repel mosquitoes. And as the Captain Kidd legend I mentioned at the beginning of this story might tell you, the Pine Barrens have a certain aura for inspiring really morbid myths and legends. But perhaps all of this brings another explanation to mind. I thought of this the other night after mixing a weed tincture with some LaCroix.
Wow.
So get ready.
Yeah. But
anyone who's ever driven through the Pine Barrens can attest to the strange energy that radiates off of it. It's equal parts seductive and repellent, one might say. It could even be attested to a history filled with suffering and evil, a central hub for slave trafficking back when it was common in the North, a home for many of the golden age of piracy's most bloodthirsty luminaries, religious fundamentalism, the subjugation and driving out of the native population, all of which is to say that the Pine Barrens, like much of this country, has a history that's built on a certain type of darkness. And within the context of New Jersey, I think it has a kind of a bloodier early history, or quote unquote early history, because obviously there were people there for a very long time. It has a bloodier history than a lot of the rest of the state. Now, could it be that the psychic energy of a place like the Pine Barrens is particularly inviting to the supernatural? Inviting people to look past the limits of our reality, manifesting in the form of things like the Jersey Devil. And if so, what can be learned from some of these notorious sightings? Take Stephen Decatur, for instance. Now, like I said, he was the military hero who failed to slay the beast by cannonball in the 19th century.
Right. Mm-hmm.
A few years later, Decatur would die in a failed duel. That seems quite prescient to what happened in that sighting, does it not? Or I guess the sighting seems quite prescient, I should say.
Right. Yeah. 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 That he took his shot and didn't work out.
And what does that tell you? We gotta. I'm sorry, I'm not quite up to date on the news, but if this is still going on, these duels have got to stop.
Yeah. No, I agree. Someone ought to do something about this.
I think we should become an anti-duel advocacy podcast. But perhaps you could actually say the same about the horrific sightings of 1909, complete with the murder of livestock and pets and the single file tracks repellent to dog. Could this not be seen as a form of psychic foreshadowing of the horrors of the 20th century? Those same single file horse tracks resembling the trenches in which the sons of those who took up arms to defend their rural New Jersey communities against Mother Leeds' 13th child would die painfully and without purpose, far from the Pine Barrens and the cold embrace of Kaiser. And what of the uptick of sightings in the mid-20th century, dismissed by the police but promoted by both locals and showmen? Is it any coincidence that these sightings occurred at the height of both UFO and cryptid sightings in the United States, along with the Cold War, nuclear peril between the United States and the Soviet Union, the growth of our intelligence apparatus, and of course, MK Ultra experiments?
Yeah.
With such a thing in mind, is it any reason that the Barons might have been acting up? Or perhaps that maybe these sightings themselves could have been MK Ultra related? Which brings us to the 1993 sighting. Now, Jason, I know what you're thinking. The 90s, relatively peaceful time in America. This debunks my whole fucking theory, doesn't it?
Well, there was the Cola Wars, but
I have egg on my goddamn face, or do I? Because it turns out that you would be forgetting one thing that happened that very year. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing, an Al-Qaeda attack on New York that has been forgotten by many, for the attack that would occur 8 years later on September 11th, 2001. Both events impacting the residents of New Jersey greatly. Is it not possible that the sightings of the Jersey Devil could have foreshadowed the bridge between the two? Do you hear this, Jason? Can you hear this?
Kind of, yeah.
You know what this is?
Change?
Loose change. I know you're going to tell me this is fucking ridiculous. There is no evidence that a cryptid could be important for things to come or that the Jersey Devil knew anything about 9/11. But allow me to redirect you to a similar, tall, sexy, winged cryptid from the East Coast. The Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, from the Great Mothman Flap that preceded the deadly Point Pleasant Silver Bridge collapse, which killed nearly 60 people, to claimed sightings in the 1990s in Moscow that preceded the deadly apartment bombings that wreaked havoc across Russia, leading to the rise of Putin, which is, shaping much of politics today. This cryptid has always been associated with dark things to come. Which makes it reasonable to say that maybe the Jersey Devil are two sides of the same coin. Maybe they're one and the same. This same phenomenon could be tied to a lot of UFO sightings. It could be tied to a lot of glowing orb sightings. None of this should be taken as me saying anything legitimately true, by the way. This is all speculation. But I'm convinced.
No, that's a pretty thorough analysis. Yeah, I don't know what to say. That's a interesting interesting way to think about it. So the Pine Barren, I have never been to New Jersey, so forgive me. The Pine Barrens, like, they're not like people. Do people go there for like recreation, or is it?
People camp there a lot. There are a lot of sightings that happen while people are camping.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Camping, hunting. It's all pretty popular. Like, but it's remotely populated because you could never like set up farms there.
Right.
It was not a place that you could really live permanently, and that attracts a certain type of person.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
It was originally the like old woodsman types, the former pirates, people like that.
right.
And I think New Jersey being so small as well kind of contributes to, a lot of different types of people experience it, but a lot of people, people live in the Pine Barrens usually, like in the deep Pine Barrens historically for a reason. Less so now, but historically for a reason.
Sure. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
I'm all fucking worked up, man.
Yeah. So clearly. So what? What's the like most recent?
I think the most recent would have been those 2015 alleged sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Rise of ISIS. Actually, I think that had already started. I guess.
Yeah, I think that's
that had already started. 2016 election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we narrowly avoided having Hillary Clinton for president.
Yeah, thank God we fucking did something about her emails. No, I mean, a lot of bad shit happened in 2016, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, not just that. I mean, you had a whole outbreak of white nationalism and stuff. I mean, like I said, I do think those sightings are fake. So I don't know what the most recent was before that. It's hard because people cite it while they're camping all the time. I don't generally mention those because a lot of it is just like, yeah, it had not been enough time for the mushrooms to kick in, and I was only 8 natties deep.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you. That's that's pretty wild.
But the thing that pisses me off, I'm going to say, is that Jersey Devil is a big part of the state's identity as well, kind of a state mascot.
Sure.
But a state mascot in a weird way, because it's not usually. So we have the Jersey Devils are our hockey team. The Jersey Devils mascot is not the Jersey Devil, but a generic devil figure. The same thing with when the Jersey Devil showed up in What We Do in the Shadows. It was nothing like the real Jersey Devil. So I'm a bit sick and tired of people thinking the Jersey Devil is just the devil that lives in New Jersey. And they need to fucking learn the facts. Put some fucking respect on Mr. Leeds' name.
Yeah, the 13th lead.
Yeah.
Leeds.
What you never said anything about what his older siblings did.
That's true. Yeah, do you think they're cryptids other places?
No, I think it seems like all of them were pretty normal. One of them just became like a barber.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I
don't know. I'm just making this up.
Right.
You know nothing about Mother Leeds' 1st through 12th kids.
Right. Yeah, who knows?
Some people say, though, that the whole legend started because she was a Quaker and it was anti-Quaker racism. And that's another thing that I think we need to put a stop to. The two things that I am most worried about at this point in America, dueling and anti-Quaker racism.
Sure. Yeah.
Caricatures like the Oats Man, who, by the way, has gotten a lot sexier. If you've been buying Quaker Oats for a long time, look at the package now. Look up a picture of the old package. He got a fucking face. He's a lot hotter now. Maybe he died and got replaced by his sexy son. Maybe he had work done.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That he's been replaced. Because you're absolutely right. I was drunkenly watching old 80s TV commercials on YouTube the other night, and noticed that as well. The Quaker Oats man was a lot chubbier.
But you know what I'm going to say is that that's also an example of anti-Quaker racism. Because the new Quaker Oats man, he's svelte, he's sexy, he's thin, he had the facelift. The old Quaker Oats man, in my opinion, that's a Quaker's body.
Yeah.
That is a Quaker. That is a fine Quaker body, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, I don't think. Yeah, absolutely. That much love to the Quaker Oats man of the 80s.
I've actually heard the Quakers are kind of cool now, but they were like very intense back in the day.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to go on record.
Yeah, maybe they're bad. I don't know.
My thoughts about Quakers, my ignorant opinions.
I'm not going to say anything one way or another. If you grew up Quaker, let us know, and let us know what you think about the Quaker Oats man getting a fucking facelift.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that I think that the sexy, firm Quaker body of the previous Quaker Oats man needs to come back. Or the two can coexist and show there are many types of Quaker body.
I'd support that.
Yeah.
I
But
wonder
either
if
way,
I wonder if maybe the older one got killed off because he stumbled across the truth about the Jersey Devil and the
and 9/11
connection the Pine Barrens has to tragic events worldwide. So they bumped him off and replaced him with this buff, his buff doppelganger.
It is extremely possible. It's very, very possible. They just need to keep a Quaker man quiet.
Yeah.
I think that's what they do in Quaker church, though, is just be quiet.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. Like they just go and sit and they all sit for a couple hours in silence.
I think that's actually what they do. Let us know. Let us know in the comments. I think all of our listeners are people I think we have a few listeners that we don't know, but it's mostly people we know who are not Quaker. But if you are Quaker, let us know in the comments. All right, Jason, you're up.
Yeah. Well, you've talked about your home state. I will talk about a creature from mine. I'm originally from Ohio.
Forgetting Ohio.
Yep.
Can you believe they didn't call me back for Cats?
Man, how the world would have been different. Cats, the what movie or the stage production?
The movie, the revival of the stage production, the revival of the stage production, the off Broadway production, which is actually in Oswego. No callbacks for Cats.
No. Yep, the world's missing out.
Yeah.
No, this is this is from near my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Come with me. Take a trip to beautiful Loveland, Ohio.
All right.
It's a northern suburb of Cincinnati.
And it's legally it's the only place you're allowed to fuck in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. No, that's actually true. Yeah, so it's a northern suburb of Cincinnati. It's along the Little Miami River. It's all right. It's a pretty country, a little hilly. I don't know. Not much to do when I lived in Cincinnati. We didn't go to Loveland.
Go to Miami?
Yeah. Go to Miami.
Were the clubs in Miami like they say, like Will Smith would have me believe? It's the same Miami, right?
No, in fact, I think he's talking about a different Miami.
I've always heard you go to Miami, Ohio, you get a Platano, you go to the club, see the sexy ladies.
Yeah, I don't think it's this. It's Miami, Ohio that he's referring to. Although it could be. They have a pretty good school there.
I had to refund some plane tickets. We should stop the podcast.
I can't imagine plane tickets to Miami, Ohio are very expensive or in demand.
You know, they don't have them. I had to go off book, so they were more than you'd think.
Oh. All right. Well, anyway, so back in 1955, according to the story, a business person, just says businessman, walking down the road.
That is very woke of you to not, because maybe the businessman was a they them and couldn't express that at the time.
Well, it could be. I guess I was just. It just seems like such a vague term to you, like just businessman or business, but like it doesn't really communicate much.
I guess that's not a job anymore. Businessman is not a job anymore.
Right.
But back in the 50s, it was a job. Back in the 50s, you could just be a businessman.
Right. Like I'm just picturing a guy, he's got a fedora. He's got on like
the gray suit
tie. Yeah. Carrying a briefcase. Hard. Yeah.
I have to
hard
go to the
say.
office.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he goes to the office. He has a
physically.
secretary. He goes in his office, and no one knows what he does.
Right. Right. And
It's the door your grandpa just like says he just knocked on a door and got.
yeah. Right. He showed up with a freshly printed resume on a nice cardstock and handed it to a guy in a hat who, after chain smoking and day drinking, he gave him a desk.
I walked in, I knocked on their door, I caught the CEO fucking his secretary, and then I said, I'll tell your wife if you don't give me a job. I feel like that's what happened in half those stories.
That could be. That's how my grandpa got where he was.
The old strong family craftiness.
Exactly so.
All right.
So anyway,
Loveland, Virginia, 1950s. We have a businessman. What'd you say? Do we have a name?
Well, it's Loveland, Ohio.
Loveland, Ohio. Did I say Loveland, West Virginia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was still thinking Mothman, but we're not talking Mothman. We're talking Frogman.
We're talking Frogman.
Frogman of Loveland, seen by a businnesman. Do we have a name?
No.
For the sake of this, I am gonna say, Ohio businessman name just off the top of my head, Vladimir Sanderson.
Vladimir Sanderson.
Yes.
I saw you looking around your room like you were doing a
Yeah, I saw a book about Vladimir Lenin and one of the Mistborn books. You know what my fucking home library is like.
But what did we say? Vladimir what? Sanderson.
Vladimir Sanderson.
So he claims he saw 3 disturbing creatures gathered by the side of the road. 3 to 4 feet tall, covered with leathery skin. The creatures were standing erect, bipedal.
Well, I mean,
I assume actually it says erect, bipedal. So maybe those are 2.
Yeah, erect and bipedal.
Yeah.
Bad combo.
Yeah, have the head shape and faces of frogs.
I'm just gonna say
deep wrinkles, totally hairless.
All right, totally hairless. Before you told me totally hairless, I was thinking this is some really intense anti-Italian American racism. But once you got me at the hairless thing, I don't think we're there anymore. No. So you said 4 feet tall, hairless, 3 to 4 feet tall. 3 to 4 feet tall, deep wrinkles.
A little bit of range. Deep wrinkles.
Oh man, I hope they kidnap me. I'd be the fucking tallest one.
But yeah, the first account, this 1955 account by Vladimir Sanderson, didn't give a specific location, didn't give a specific time or anything like that. But there is, I do know from having been through there is said the Little Miami River cuts through Loveland, a lot of like smaller waterways, a lot of bridges. So lots of places, this would seem like kind of a logical frogman.
Yeah.
Habitat.
Yeah, frogman would live by the river. Now, how deep is the river, would you say?
I think the Little Miami's a pretty good size river, so I don't know.
Because
12 feet.
Interesting. So you hear about what body of water does the Little Miami River feed into?
The Ohio River.
The Ohio River. Which is enormous and feeds into what?
The Mississippi.
Which feeds into the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So this is what's interesting to me because I feel like are you familiar with USOs, underwater submersible objects?
A little, yeah. And actually,
are we gonna get into this?
Little bit of possibly.
All right, I'll shut up. The thing that I am very good at doing on this show.
Yeah. So the let's see. The next recorded sighting was by a police officer.
And you can always trust them.
Yeah. you're actually hinting at more to the story to come. But we know he saw it March 3rd, 1972 at 1 a.m. Because he filled out a report. Traveling slowly, driving his police car slowly because the roads were icy. He saw a creature scurry across the road, slammed on his brakes, got out and looked, and it was little Frogman. Yeah, they stared at each other. Then finally it climbed over a guardrail and jumped in the Little Miami. It was just, again, the creature described as being 3 to 4 feet tall, 50 to 75 pounds. Yeah, and they were able to.
He doesn't know that it's 50 to 75 pounds. That's the first hole in a story. I'm going to say it. He didn't fucking weigh the thing. You don't know its bone density.
Yeah. No, that's,
it probably
that,
has.
that is, it
probably it might have a much higher bone density if it lives deeper.
Right.
It might have a much lower bone density. You don't know that it is 50 to 75 pounds. That is a bold fucking guess.
Yeah.
I'm very worked up today.
Yeah.
Just talk to my therapist about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another sighting subsequent to that one was there was another police officer who claims to have shot one.
Of course.
But turns out he was lying about that.
He was just drunk and shooting his weapon off in the air, presumably, and then was like, "No, the Frogman."
Right, and he was.
Because cops do have to account for every bullet, right?
I think so.
Like, I know that like they lie all the time and shit, but they do at least have paperwork that, in theory, they're supposed to be like. Anytime they use their service weapon is discharged, they have to write down why they did it.
Yeah. Yeah. This would have been the 70s, like kind of rural Ohio though, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I was gonna say, I think in the 70s they still did, but I think that's also like a I think it depends on where.
Yeah. No, but part of the reason he gave for making up a story was he wanted to support his buddy, the original police officer that spotted the Frogmen.
Never do this, by the way. Never, whether it's about a cryptid or a UFO or a ghost or a real or a concrete thing, a quote unquote real thing. Even though I believe a number of people's sightings in many of these cases, not about the Loveland Frogman, but in other stories. You are never supporting somebody's story by lying and telling a story that's not connected to it. Like to be connected to it. You are discrediting that person's story.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Continue.
The Frogmen are still, that since the original report in 1955, people pretty consistently report sightings. I think one of the most recent ones was in 2016, where a dude and his girlfriend were playing Pokemon Go. If you remember, did you ever play Pokemon Go?
I played it in 2016. Of course I played Pokemon Go.
Okay. Yeah, so they I guess wandering around looking for the Pokemons and stumbled across a Frogman instead.
Man, people got hit by fucking cars playing that game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that you might have just seen a Squirtle in Pokemon Go while taking mushrooms. That is a non-zero possibility.
Well, he in his statement he's pretty clear that no, it was not the game. Like he specifically anticipates that counter argument.
All right. Well, he got me.
Yeah, it's airtight story. The connection to what'd you call them? USOs?
USOs, underwater unidentified submersible objects.
Mm-hmm. Many of the sightings, aside from describing the same sort of short frog-like hairless creature. They're also described as holding a cylindrical metal object that some people said flashes, sparks, emits pulses of light.
Ooh, you gotta run away from that. That's supposed to go in the butt.
Do you think they do you think
I
they
think
brought
they're
it with them,
trying
or
to.
you
I
it's
think
something they found?
what?
Do you think that the metal butt plug is something they brought with them, or do you think it's something they found?
I think it's
Since
something from the
there?
ship. I think that they're living deep in the Atlantic. I'm gonna say that the hairless exterior is actually their depressurized and pressurized suit. They're going up through all these rivers. They're getting to Ohio. They've done ground surveys, and what they want to know is what happens if they Roman candle you with the sparked end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And thank God for our brave Ohio police officers protecting the anuses of hardworking Ohioans everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
the thin blue line.
Yeah, but like you had mentioned about the Jersey Devil, the Loveland Frogman's become something of a mascot for the again, the town of Loveland, which quite frankly doesn't have a lot going for it anyway. So
yeah, they need it, you know, and
yeah,
that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow, great. You know, these were some, I'm going to say it, these were some spooky yet fun stories.
Yeah.
I would say it was good for the whole family, but I didn't talk about, you know, things going up the butt, 9/11, probably a bunch of other shit that I've already forgotten about, weed tinctures, probably not good for the whole family.
Yeah, I think I dropped a few F-bombs.
Yeah, I think we do that a lot. I'm just going to say this right now. If you have like young kids, don't listen to the podcast, or if your kids say fuck, don't blame us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They could have heard it anywhere.
Yeah, you know. If you're listening to this show around them.
My Favorite Murder is probably where they got it.
Yeah, blame them. Blame them. You know, blame a more popular podcast.
It's a dollop. I don't.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's cool. Kind of looking into, you know, the history of where you're at or where you're from, and yeah, some cool monsters.
No, it's been super cool. It's been super fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Next week, we're going to be back with more weird news, back to the normal, quote unquote, normal stuff. And for a few weeks after that, and then we'll probably have another fun, wacky special at some other point to be announced.
Who knows?
But for now, you should stay up to date with us on social media at Underworld News Tonight on Facebook and Instagram. Keep listening to the show. If you want to send us anything, email us at underworldnewstonight@gmail.com. We deeply appreciate you as our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much.